funds.
Okay. Always seems strange to me that it wasn't here.
Yeah, it would be nice in the center. Who knows, when they redo everything, maybe it'll,
They will ask us, I'm sure, and we will say, please do that.
I've been in a lot of meetings, I kind of like to when the, like, staff is at a table in front. You know, so you're not looking down, you just sit there and,
Absolutely. If we
Yeah.
can figure out a way to get these monitors out of the way, maybe embed them in the desk so we can look down to it or something,
Oh, yeah.
but. The chair recognizes that it is now a little bit after 7 o'clock according to our official clock. I'd like to call to order the Farragut Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for December 13, 7 p.m. I'm Keith Alley. I'm the chair. Good evening to you. We have just 3 items on the agenda this evening. The first item is the approval of the minutes for the April 27, 2022 meeting. Has everyone who is here had an opportunity to review that? Do you want to do roll call first for the?
yeah, if you want me to, I'm not sure how you normally do it.
We can do that if you just want to
Okay,
call the roll and see who's here.
Mr. Alley,
Here?
Mr. Holliday,
Here.
Mr. Bellamy,
Here.
Mr. Hoffman is absent, and Mr. Devlin.
All right. And I realize that some of our members weren't here for the April 27, 2022 meeting, but for those of us who were and have reviewed it, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, motion to approve.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, please affirm by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining?
Michael Bellamy.
All right. Motion carries, and so the minutes for April 27, 2022 meeting are approved. Second item on the agenda is the election of the officers.
Okay.
What are the current positions?
Okay, currently, Mr. Alley is the chairman. The vice chair is Mr. Holliday, and the secretary is Mr. Hoffman.
All right. Chair will entertain any motions.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to keep in place the officers that are currently serving.
All right. Do I have a second?
second.
All right. Call for a vote. All in favor, please affirm by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Motion carries. Current slate of officers are the same as last time. That's right. All right, so the third item on our agenda and last is a public hearing on a request for a home occupation permit, interpretation, use on review for a home recording business at 456 Chapel Grove Lane, Chapel Grove Development, zoned attached single-family residential district, R4. Miss Betty Howard is the applicant. Miss Howard, good evening. How are you? All right. The way that we do this typically is if I can get everyone to stand who's going to testify, and I will swear you in, and then you would just come up to the podium when we call you, and then you can proceed from there. But are both of you planning on testifying this evening? No. Okay, just you, Ms. Howard? Yes. All right. I'll go ahead and swear you in now if you'd like. Can I get you to stand? Yes. All right. Please state your name.
My name's Betty Howard,
And where do you live?
456 Chapel Grove Lane, Farragut, Tennessee.
All right, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give the board this evening is truthful and accurate to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
I do.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll hear from the town's representative first.
Okay, again, this is a request for a home occupation permit. The applicant wants to put a small home recording studio business in her unit there in the Chapel Grove development. It's a little different than I think you see a lot of on the board. It's not really an appeals. It's a use on review. The state law makes room for the Board of Zoning Appeals to hear special exceptions when they're written into the code, and in this case, it is. Here on the this exhibit is the existing language from the zoning ordinance that covers home occupations, And in the last item there, item 10, under Part C, it permits uses that the Board of Zoning Appeals finds are similar to the other, permitted home occupations. So basically tonight, what's being requested is for the board to determine whether or not their proposed use is similar enough to the other listed permitted home occupations that would be permitted, just by right because they're listed, to be permitted as a home occupation. All of the conditions that are spelled out under Part B there are applicable to all home occupations. So when an applicant comes into the office, they fill out a form, for a home occupation permit. They have to check off and state that those conditions are the case. If there's a question that staff might have regarding traffic generation or things like that, sometimes we ask them to put some additional explanation in the permit application as to how they're going to deal with that. But in this case, the home recording studio is something that that Mark had not seen, that I had not seen an application for that before, and we felt there were some similar some similar elements of it to other things in there, but since it wasn't specifically listed and it was something we hadn't dealt with before, we felt that it would be best to bring it to the Board of Zoning Appeals and let you make the interpretation as to whether it was similar and therefore permitted. So, what we did in our analysis was just to look at it, look at some of the other uses that are permitted. In the staff write-up that we gave you, we noted some of the others that we felt would at least be in the ballpark. One was a photographer. A photographer could have like a photography studio in their home. They could have clients come, be taking photos, that sort of thing. And also craftsperson, which was a little different. Typically, in the case of home occupations, we've always thought of craftsperson as arts and craft. But when we looked at the dictionary definition of it, it was broader than that. And again, we felt like that was a similar category or a category that it could fall into. Some of the questions that we had about the use was obviously noise and vibration, because that's one of the conditions that they have to meet. But the applicant is got a proposal to put a soundproof room within their structure to deal with that, and that's actually a requirement for the recording itself, because they can't have noise bleeding into the recording. So, it serves two purposes there. It'll also keep the noise from bleeding out and potentially disturbing the neighbors. So, from a staff perspective, we felt that that it would be reasonable to consider it similar, given the scope of the use and the mitigation that they're doing. But again, that's a board decision. So if you have any questions, we can review some of the other considerations as to what some of the other uses that are permitted in there and the impacts they could have. We've kind of felt like there were things there like having a hairdresser or a barber, and the provisions allow for a resident plus one outside person, so you could conceivably have two people having their hair cut or done at the same time and one or two waiting. So we felt, even in terms of the number of clients that the applicant was talking about having in at any given time, that that it was reasonably in line with what could be expected in some other listed home occupations. So if y'all have any questions or...
The only thing I really was interested in knowing is under Section 6, subsection B, where it says all customary home occupations shall comply with the following development criteria. As a practical matter, our board doesn't have to concern itself with that, because the town, in issuing the permit, shall make sure, so you'll make sure that they comply with that. If at any time they don't comply with that, then you'll go out and you'll do whatever is necessary to do that. But we don't have to inquire. We just have to inquire into whether or not what they're asking is similar enough to one of the listed things.
Yeah, that is true, I think. You know, we did discuss it a little bit in our write-up as to those criteria. In case the question came up as, you know, would it be, you know, reasonable to consider it similar given the potential impacts of a use? You know, so if a use came before you and it might seem, you know, similar on paper, but then when you thought about, you know, what might some of those impacts be? If they didn't have a good mitigation strategy, you might find that it, you know, it wasn't similar because of the potential impacts. But yeah, that, you know, those apply to everyone, and our form basically lists them all. The applicant has to check off on each one, and like I say, if we have a question, sometimes we'll ask them to give us a little more information. And then the permit is usually issued, you know, subject to continued compliance. And if it became an issue, if neighbors started to complain, then we'd have to take some sort of enforcement action. But yeah, that's correct.
All right, if that's correct, I really don't have any more questions. I was just concerned about whether or not we had to inquire into, you know, all of the things that they shall comply with. But again, if they're certifying that they will comply with it, they have to comply with it, and the town has a remedy if they don't,
Yeah.
then really what we're dealing with is subsection C and trying to determine whether or not it's similar to one of
Yeah,
those things.
Yeah, by and large, and we just felt that, you know, some of the impacts were, you know, might at least weigh on your decision, and so, you know, but again, the applicants provided information as to, you know, how they want to deal with the sound issue, and also what their plan is for parking people and the amount of traffic generation that might be coming in by limiting the number of clients at any one time, so.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. And I can barely see you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Ca-
On
Can you
page-
come up to the podium, Miss
Yes.
Howard, if you're gonna?
Man,
We don't mean to make you stand while we
Oh,
talk,
oh, that's
but
okay.
we can hear you, and they do record these things, so
Okay.
it's a little bit better with the microphone.
In page 1 of 2, item B3, it said that the space devoted to the home occupation shall not exceed 20% of the gross floor area of the principal building. And I was looking for some clarification that on the back there, that of these rooms
Yes.
that you're going, is that included in the 20% in these rooms here?
Those are the sizes, and out of all of those, I'm to choose one size. I haven't gotten the measurements yet, but they're gonna come in and do the measurements sometime next year. And yes, that 20% is like one room. One room is really big. I don't know the dimensions of it, but I know, do you know the dimensions about? Well,
Well, I guess my question is, when you include this room, would that exceed the 20%?
no, that's just a portion. It would probably cover from where Mr. Bart is to, like, that little area from that wall, maybe the middle is, and that. And it will still leave probably, the room is really big, so it'll probably leave more than 50% left in the room.
Okay, so.
But it's 20% of the entire house.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's gonna be.
20% of the dwelling.
Yes, oh, okay.
20% of the principal building, which is the entire house. So it would not.
It, a lot, much less.
Okay.
Yes, because I think it's 5,400 something feet.
Okay. I was just curious.
I didn't
if
understand, I'm sorry.
I was just curious if that was incorporated.
Oh, okay.
Into the 20%. Okay.
Are the different whisper rooms made for different decibel levels, or are they just basically sizes? Because in the information we got, there was an app that you could measure the decibel sound, and then that would guide you on which one of those you would choose.
Yes, from speaking with the contractor, she said that if I were using drums and things like that, it would have to be much bigger. But I'm not using drums, I just have a basic keyboard, maybe 1 or 2 microphones,
Okay.
and a few speakers that goes along with it.
So that was the criteria. If you're going to use percussion instruments, you need to have a larger.
Yes.
Okay. That's one of the concerns that I have. If this house were to be sold later and someone were looking for a home, and they say, oh, we found the perfect house in Farragut for our child to play the drums, how would we address that upon sale of the home?
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure that, that would
Well, I mean,
come into
it's-
play. I think that, they would,
The compliance that we spoke about earlier, would it continue?
well, honestly, it wouldn't be a home occupation at that point. If your child, I mean, this is purely for a home
Okay.
occupation, so,
Okay.
which it is something to think about. Somebody could have the unit next door and their kid could be a drummer, and there would be no requirement for limiting noise or anything like that, except being
Okay.
nice to your neighbor, so.
Well, then you get into a
Yeah,
nuisance.
even
the-
if they
the-
brought in the biggest one, it would still cover that area.
Okay.
Because it's nothing that you have to alter. It's basically like a setup room. You bring it in, and what they do is she explained, she bring it in, and they put it together. You don't have to touch the walls, you don't have to build anything, you don't have to nail anything. You just open it up.
Okay, because I thought that there was the issue of, you were going to make a decision as to a whisper room or a permanently,
No, it's something that you can take down when you leave.
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, well-
Is this room attached to the house, or will it be inside your house?
It's inside the house. We're attached by garages. And the garage is like this side, where I'm putting the whisper room would be on this side. So she wouldn't either be able to hear it anyway,
Okay, but physically, it would be inside?
inside the home, upstairs.
House, yeah, okay,
Yes.
all right.
It's
That's
more
just-
like the bonus room.
That's my only concern, is if later someone else decides to do percussion.
Yeah, well, when staff did the write-up on it, we were just going off the application, and in the application, it was whisper room or a sound engineer coming in, but in the intervening period of time, I think Ms. Howard decided to go with the whisper room option, so,
Yes.
and if I understand that, it's sort of like a prefab room that
Yes,
comes
it's
in and they assemble
prefabricated.
it.
Okay.
A room, it's essentially a room within a room that
Yes.
that they're putting in.
Well, good luck with your bonus room. My bonus room is more of we don't know where else to put it, and we'll just throw it in the bonus room for right now.
Okay.
And then, 2 years later, it's still there, so good
Yeah.
luck on that.
Yeah, because I was telling, if we did move, or even if, one of the concerns was if it got bigger when I was speaking to the HOA manager. Well, I said if it got bigger, I hope so, but I would be looking for a building, I would love to have a building. But because it's our home and it's in the neighborhood, they was asking me about, the parking. I told them that I would only schedule maybe 1 or 2 people to come in because it's our home. And, that's the way we want to keep it, because we want all the traffic there, excuse me.
I'm very impressed by this. This is very professional. And as a former HOA chairman, I'm very tuned into HOA, and you seem to have done a great job
Thank you.
of getting your HOA involved in it
Yes.
and getting them on board. So
Thank you.
good deal.
Ms.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I've asked everything I need to ask.
Ms. Howard, just briefly, in terms of trying to make this, put it in my mind as to what it would be most closely related to, as a recording studio, will you be having soundboards and mixing music and adjusting the levels of things coming in that are being recorded?
It would be, since it's home, you can't have the major sound. So it would be a small soundboard, maybe fit for a few people and not a big band. So basically, it would be me recording unless somebody else would like to come over and record. Right now, it's just me and a couple of others that's interested in music right now. So I only have maybe 3 or 4 clients that's interested in recording.
But part of what you bring to the table is your ability to mix the sound and make it sound best so that you have voices and keyboard and things all coming in at the right levels and being recorded correctly?
I have to hire an engineer.
Okay, but that
Yes.
will be part of it.
Yes.
Okay. To me, gentlemen, that seems a lot like an artist or an author of music. And so I think that that's very similar to what we would think of as a musical artist in putting that together. So that's sort of my thinking in 2 cents on that. But
Yeah, I think my only comments would be that I think it definitely fits in with the theme of what the regulation is. And part two is if you've convinced your homeowners association to do it, that's way tougher than us. So
Okay.
certainly, yeah, I'm all for it. So let me know when you're taking motions.
all right. If there's no other questions of anyone, Chair will certainly entertain motions.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
And are you approving it on the basis that it is most similar to an artist, writer, or author?
Craftsman, absolutely.
All right, very good. And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, call for a vote. All in favor, please affirm by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion carries.
And it was seconded by Mr. Holliday?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
you're approved.
Thank you all.
Absolutely, good luck.
Thank you so much.
That sounds like a fun thing to do.
Yes, and any events, I'm willing to come out and perform.
Okay.
I do gospel and country, so, and some easy listening.
One thing, Ms. Howard, that your application was to be heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals so they could determine that it would be similar. So now you will have to apply for the actual home occupation permit. And that's a form that they can email over to you or
Okay.
send over to you and you know, fill out and send back in, so.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay,
And thank you
All
all
right.
for your time.
You're welcome. You have a good evening. All right, there being no further business of the board on the agenda, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
one other quick thing.
Oh, we do.
Mark wanted me to ask you, you know, just as a group, as to whether or not on the time of